Christina, thank you. For more on the Columbia protests, let's welcome Rabbi Yaakov Menken. Rabbi, thanks for joining the Leventhal Report. My producer told me you were just in California at an event, and you dealt with some anti-Semitism personally. Tell me about that.
No, that's absolutely true. I spoke at Cal State Sacramento, and I was invited out there by Turning Point USA, and the intent was, of course, to deliver a talk on anti-Semitism, its biblical roots, how we know what we're looking for. And I delivered it, spelled it out, made it sure that it was clear, as objective as possible. And first, I warned the students, because there was some sort of planned protest, by the way, if you shut down free discussion and you try to shout down and silence others, that has no precedent in American society. That's not the way protest is done in a first world civilization. In fact, it's how a first world civilization is turned into a dictatorship. The proof of that, the Hitler Youth, because this is a tactic straight out of the Hitler Youth. So they did not do a big protest. They did not jump up and shout, but they did. Once they got too frustrated with me simply delivering some cold truths they weren't prepared to hear, they stormed out en masse, leaving me with the Turning Point USA crowd, which was great. But they were there to, they were hoping to disrupt, and it was clear that they weren't getting anywhere.
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that they were cowards or that they weren't prepared to hold an actual debate with a learned person such as yourself. Now, yesterday, reports came out that there would be a new encampment at Columbia, but it appears now that no one showed up. Do you think that's because news of the event leaked out or because of Trump's threats to cut funding to the school? What do you think happened?
I think it's a combination of both of those factors. The Trump administration has made this extremely clear. And just earlier today, I was meeting with Ed Martin, the Attorney General for the D.C. district. And, they're very clear as a team that they're going after the anti-Semitism on these campuses. And, Columbia was the site of horrific protests before. All of a sudden, it seems that they've realized they need to keep their students from exhibiting this type of racism and intolerance. Otherwise, the government is going to pull their funding. And it's having a dramatic impact already, and God willing, we should see this go further.
Well, Rabbi, 6 people were just arrested after anti-Israel protesters clashed with Hasidic Jewish locals outside of a Brooklyn synagogue, where the Israeli National Security Minister was making an appearance late Thursday. This just happened a day after protests near Yale University's campus, where he was invited to speak at an event, and some hurled water bottles at him and even called him a Nazi. How can anyone defend this behavior, especially when it occurred on Holocaust Remembrance Day?
Yeah, no, the answer is, of course, it's completely indefensible. Holocaust Remembrance Day is a day that reminds us exactly what happens when this sort of hate is allowed to grow unchecked. And so, once again, there's gratitude to the current government of the United States for saying no more of this. We are going to clamp down. And the truth of the matter is that Americans need to realize this is actually more dangerous to America than it is to the Jews. The Jewish people have a miraculous tendency to survive all of these things, whereas there's no guarantee that America's democracy will continue and flourish unless Americans work together to ensure that. These people are acting completely against it, and I think it shows a lot that they would demonstrate, that they would yell their anti-Semitic chants outside 770 Eastern Parkway, the headquarters of the Chabad Lubavitch movement. Chabad houses on campus are currently refuges for Jewish students from persecution on campuses across America, and so they tried to bring it right to Crown Heights, right to the guys who were, they were having none of it. But obviously, that's just disgraceful, and it demonstrates this has nothing to do with Israel, nothing to do with politics, everything to do about hating the Jews.
Yeah, and where is that coming from? That we have to save that for another day. We only have about 30 seconds left. And as a man of faith, I want to get your opinions on the passing of Pope Francis, who had a strong stance against anti-Semitism. How important is it for the Catholic Church to have a leader who stands up for Judaism?
Well, we're hoping that even, when going forward, we would love to hear from a Pope more positive messages about Israel's self-defense also. There were some problematic things in Pope Francis in that regard. But yes, he also took a tough stance against anti-Semitism, and everyone who wants to see civilization continue needs to stand up against bigotry and intolerance at any minority group. But certainly the Jews as the source of biblical ethics, that's something that has to be guarded.
Rabbi Menken, thank you so much for joining the Leventhal Report. You're welcome here anytime. Mourners spent a